What's up, guys? Big Kleib 34 coming at you today with Kleibcast episode 2. Still not sure about how I feel about the title. One of those things where I kind of feel like it's just going to keep going and eventually it's going to stick. But anyways, today we're coming back to you with the premiere. So how this is going to work this week is last week we did the live debut. This week we're going to be doing the premiere, meaning like I'm going to be in the comments chatting with you guys as this goes live for the entirety of the first playthrough. The premiere feature for YouTube is kind of weird and kind of a little bit raw and not really refined, so we're going to play it by ear, see how it goes. Anyways, if you're catching this video as it's uploaded, I will be over there in the comments chatting with you guys, answering questions, talking back and forth, whatever you think of to bring to the table. I'm more than ready to talk about it. So, I got my hair cut. It was weird. I haven't had a haircut in like 5-6 months. And honestly, like, I tried cutting my hair by myself, which I told you guys about in the last podcast, and it just didn't, it wasn't great. I'm not going to lie. It was pretty much a terrible experience. I wanted to try it, and I figured if I'm not going out anytime soon, might as well do it. But, you know, it turned out awful, and now I know not to do that anymore, right? So, anyways, you miss those simple things, right? The going out and getting your hair cut, and you don't even really think about them in regular life, but when we're living like this, yeah. Speaking of simple things that I appreciate, as I've gotten older, I found a lot of joy in people taking time to articulate themselves in the comments section. These comments on screen. I appreciate everybody who takes the time to watch and articulate themselves about what they're seeing. But in any case, thanks for reaching out, guys, and letting me know what you think about the podcast. And that brings up another good point. Some people were a little bit confused, so I guess I do a good job of confusing people. But people are saying, will there be any more racing content? People want to know if the truck is gone and all that kind of stuff. And no, podcasting is not going to be the only thing on this channel. Racing is taking a back seat for a little bit, not because of me, because I have high-risk people around me that I do not want to carry the coronavirus into their lives. And I realize that's a controversial opinion. I kind of don't really care to talk about it, and that's just like me being safe. That's the way I am, is I would rather be safe than sorry, and if that means sitting at home for an extra couple of months and missing out, well, you know, the risk is not worth the reward, in my opinion. I figure during this time, if I can develop the content on the channel and try something new and it works out, then it's a win-win, right? At least for the channel. I wouldn't say that the coronavirus is a win for anyone, but if we get a new piece of content, a new content platform, you know what I'm saying, new type of content out of it, then hey, it's taking a good out of a bad situation. So we will be back to racing, hopefully, I want to say later this season, maybe next season, depending on how things go. The truck will be back before then. I'm just trying to develop some content with that stuff and really give you guys some solid stuff, and not just a lot of YouTubers just make videos to make videos, and I don't want to do that. So I want to make stuff that's really worth watching. Anyways, speaking of worth watching, actually, we're going to hold that for 1 second. I just want to make a plug real quick. We are working with Amazon affiliate program as a sponsor here. So I'm basically hawking Amazon Prime to you guys. If you're one of the 7 people left on Earth who don't have Amazon Prime, it really is a product that I use, and one of the things that I just wouldn't live without, especially for the price. It's a little bit less than $10 a month, but with the code that I have, the link in the description and the comments, if you want to try Prime for yourself, you can get it for 30 days free of charge. And then after that, it's less than $10 a month. Unless you cancel it, then it's $0. And basically what you get out of it is fast, free shipping, which I find way more useful than it should be. It has no business being that useful. Like, I'll order a cable, like I wanted another HDMI cable for my secondary monitor off screen here. And I wanted it before the podcast, and I ordered it, and it was here the next day. Obviously, Amazon's on top of that. There's memes about it all over the place for a reason. You know, they have ad-free streaming music, which honestly I never use. Maybe one of you guys can let us know how that is in the comments. I have it, just don't use it. And then they have Prime Video, which sounds kind of corny, and let's be honest, it's not Netflix. I've never tried watching an Amazon Prime original, I don't think, but they do have some of the hit movies on there. And if you're anything like me, and before you go to bed, you watch Netflix and you ran through basically everything you want to watch, there's definitely some stuff on there that's worth watching. So it's free. You can help the channel out by getting a 30-day free Prime subscription. Watch yourself some new movies. If nothing else, you can get a bunch of movies for free for a month. So thank you very much. And let's dive into what the bulk of the content is going to be about here. It's kind of hard to not, I try not to get political. I try not to get too political in this. But, what's going on in the world? I was walking around at the grocery store a couple days ago, and I found myself thinking, if I was in a 6-month coma, and just 6 months even, maybe a little bit less, maybe a 5-month coma, and I woke up, I would think that I was being punked. I really, really would. So keep in mind that it's been 2 weeks since the last podcast. And in those 2 weeks, Cops and Live PD have been canceled, which, I guess I kind of get, but the white trash side of me, I really like Live PD. I mean, entertainment is entertainment, right? Whether it's on TV or not, it's happening. Paw Patrol is actually, they're talking about canceling Paw Patrol. If you guys didn't see that or have no idea what Paw Patrol is because you're an adult or don't have friends with kids, Paw Patrol is a child's cartoon, very positive message about police dogs and people. I don't know if that was satire or somebody was being sarcastic, but it's hard. That's the problem today, is that it's hard to tell. Is somebody joking? Dukes of Hazzard is in talks to get dropped by, I guess Amazon owns IMDb streaming or something like that. Might drop Dukes of Hazzard. Aunt Jemima's obviously gone. Sorry, I can't help but laugh at some of these. Elmer Fudd can no longer have guns. The Confederate flag has been banned from NASCAR, which, if you told me that 5 years ago, I would think that you're full of crap. But it's real. And Cracker Barrel surprisingly has not been canceled yet because of their name, even though they should be canceled, because my unpopular opinion is that they don't have very good food, and it's one of those things that's popular to be popular. And yeah, if you're watching this, Cracker Barrel, I'm not sorry. You should step your game up, even though I eat there sometimes. So that's that. But instead of talking about those things, we got some car content coming your way, with the first thing being pretty interesting here. GMC Cyclone. They revealed the price on this thing. They revealed all the details. And we're going to get another shot at the GMC Cyclone for 2021. Now, for those not aware, the truck actually was produced in 2020 by a company called Specialty Vehicle Engineering. So it's not technically a GM product, but it's I see it as a Celine or a Yenko, where it's not from GM, but it's GM adjacent, so it's not exactly factory, but it's right there. So last year what happened was they slapped a V6, a supercharger on the V6 in the truck, and did a couple visual upgrades and some branding, and it was I wasn't blown away by it, let's just say that. And I'm usually a little bit tough on these kinds of things, because I think just because they're not marketed towards me, I saw what they were doing. It seemed like a baby boomer hard parker at a car show, pop my hood and show off what I got kind of vehicle. But this year, guys, they really are doing something right. So I'm going to take you through the brochure, and we're going to pick apart a couple of things that people might not have noticed. And we're going to talk about the performance. We're going to talk about the visuals. And I actually reached out to SVE. There is no price anywhere on the internet, but they did release pricing information, I guess just because I messaged them. And we're going to talk about the price. So we're scrolling through the brochure here. The first thing that I noticed is the appearance, right? So in the 2020, that's what the 2020 looks like, okay? And then we pop over to the 2021, and the first thing that I notice is this front end here. This is mostly, I believe that there are some color matched pieces, but this is mostly stock GM. So if I do say so myself, it looks a lot better for the sake of a sports truck than the 2020 did. So right off the bat, you're looking better. We have a little bit more aggressive wheel style. Again, The truck is going to have the Cyclone branding, kind of make it feel like an original Cyclone. You have these 750 horsepower badges, the branded wheels, all kinds of that stuff. And outside, they basically did their best to make it look like a modernized version of a Cyclone. The one thing that I did find weird, though, was that the truck is an extended cab, and I didn't realize this until I made the video last year, but they no longer make these mid-size, unless there's something that I just completely missed, they no longer make these mid-size trucks in a single cab. The extended cab is like a little bit awkward, but I think it's a fitting candidate to do this with. If anything, I would ask GM, like, what's going on with not making a single cab. But what we do see at the top here is that the truck will feature a supercharged V8 with all-wheel drive. 750 horsepower, new for 2021, is certainly a lot more potent than the 455 horsepower that they were cranking out last year. So how are they going to get there? It will be through an L83 engine, which is a Gen 5 5.3, and for those keeping track, that technically makes it an LT engine, so it's not LS powered. The engine will be complete with a built bottom, or rod and piston combo. I shouldn't say built bottom end because I don't think it has. I think it has a stock crankshaft in it. But it will be a rod and piston combo. And then in addition to that, it's going to be hooked up with one of their in-house superchargers. Behind it, it'll have what they're just calling an HD transmission, 8L90E trans, heavy-duty drive shafts, heavy-duty transfer case. It's basically set up to be able to take a little bit of abuse, and it leaves me to question the axles. I guess because it's a truck from in the first place, they probably put strong axles in it to begin with. Scrolling through the rest here, this part just kind of shows some of the appearance modifications with our hood insert, painted grille, Cyclone wheels, Cyclone graphics. Makes it look a little bit more aggressive than it did from the factory. We have the leather seats that are embroidered with the custom stitching, custom coloring, the floor mats, all that kind of car show type of stuff that makes it look cool. Not really the performance side, but it kind of makes the truck more of the complete package of actually becoming what it wants to become here. So performance-wise, I told you about the engine, I told you about the transmission, and the transfer case. It's going to have upgraded brakes, as we see here, 6-piston forged front calipers in red with black Cyclone lettering, and 2-piece 13.6-inch slotted front rotors with rear factory calipers painted red. It'll have an exhaust, obviously, the wheels, the suspension lowered 2 inches in the front and 5 inches in the rear, and the exterior upgrades that we mentioned. Most importantly, though, it will have a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty on the engine and supercharger, the transmission, and non-powertrain components. So I guess, I don't even know what that would cover. I guess anything goes wrong related to the build, you can go ahead and get it fixed. So, my opinion on the truck, first and foremost, is that this is a much more realistic version of what I think people would expect from a Cyclone from an aftermarket company like SVE. The last one, it felt like I could see what they were doing. They realized that the original truck was, a 6-cylinder forced induction application, and they wanted to maybe try and do that again. And also, it is what it is, but these companies don't want to spend a ton of money developing these things. Obviously, if they can sell them, they're going to want to make as much money as they can. So they probably figured, you can make decent power out of the 6-cylinder. Let's just do it. This generation, they say that the engine is a similar weight to the 6-cylinder, and I would assume that it's probably not too difficult to swap in there, but that's just an assumption, and you know what they say about those. So what is this thing going to cost? Keep in mind, 750 horsepower, street truck, supercharged. There's not really too much out there that's like this. What do you guys think it would cost? Leave it in the comments as we're doing this, just to wager a guess. Okay? So, what I've discovered is it was really hard to place this thing, because the first thing that I went to was the Raptor. And I could compare it to the Raptor, which is about $70,000 loaded out. or the Rebel TRX, which they haven't released pricing on, I don't think. Also about $70,000 rolling loaded out is what they're predicting. I could compare it to that, but this truck makes more power than the Raptor, and the Rebel TRX, we still don't know what they're going to be asking for that, so time will tell, right? With the Hellcat power plant, it might be well over $70,000. Could I compare it to the Demon, which made 840 horsepower and they asked $85,000 for? Kind of. The Demon, yeah, a rare car. Or the Hellcat, yeah, maybe. So at the end of the day, the truck is more expensive than all of those that I just mentioned. SVE informed me that the price is $80,000 for the package plus about $31,000 for the price of the truck. You have to deliver them the truck for them to do the conversion. And I know what you're probably thinking. Your eyes are probably popping out of your head wondering how they came up with $111,000 for a GMC Canyon. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is the fact that there's no real great direct comparison for this other than a couple of Ford products that a lot of people probably don't even really know about. Number one, we have the Ford F-150 Harley-Davidson edition, which is a similar concept to this. It seems to be a little bit more, I don't want to say off-road oriented. I guess it's really not. I guess it is similar to this, except in a full-size truck. And the price on that, I don't think they released the price for the 2021, but in the past it has been over $100,000. These are maybe not so much people buying it for the vehicle itself, but a combination of the vehicle itself, the exclusivity, the power, the special features, because people like to have these very exclusive things. And another example is the F-150 Tonka, which is potentially, sorry to anybody who owns one. I know I did this last week too, calling people out like this, but potentially one of the ugliest trucks ever created. And people pay $110,000 for them. Also a 700 horsepower supercharged application. This one appears to be a little bit more off-road oriented, but this lowered kind of street truck vibe that you get out of this Cyclone is nothing like those. That's probably the inspiration that they had, if I were to guess where they were coming from with that price. And do I think they'll get it? I mean, yeah, they're only going to be producing 50 of these things. So not only is there not very much out there for competition, but it's going to be very, very exclusive and rare. And do I think that they'll have trouble selling 50 of these things to whoever with a warranty, especially the warranty part? No, I don't, because I think that people will buy these. And I think it's a pretty neat concept. And I do realize that even though I kind of was a little bit hard on the last year's version, the V6 version, that to do anything like this is difficult, right? It's going to be difficult to put together this package and make it something exceptional, or even make it something passable, right? So hats off to those guys for putting this together and improving it. Clearly, they've been listening to people who have been talking about it and creating feedback for them. So what do you guys think of this? Would you buy it? Would you pass on it? On to the next topic of discussion. Like I was saying earlier, guys, there's just so much negativity in the world these days that I feel like the positive stories sometimes get passed up on, because even as a content creator, like, you see something negative happen and people are just attracted to it. I don't know what it is, but people are attracted to these negative stories. So let's talk today about one random act of kindness that really stuck out in the car community. If you missed this one, a man in Louisiana took it upon himself to save a stranger's Mazda RX7. So the guy's name is Austin Owens, and he posted this story, or a collection of pictures with a couple words, to Facebook. It looks like the post was in a group, but it's since been made private. I guess that they didn't want people bombarding their group, but luckily, with the power of the internet, we've managed to come up with the post again. Basically, it shows this beautiful car in a flood. He says he has no idea who it belongs to, but he wanted to do a recovery mission here, or at least try and get the car lifted up so that he could save it. This image, by the way, was supplied to Jalopnik by Austin Owens. And the long story short is he was browsing the internet and he saw his dream car posted in a local Cars and Coffee about to be flooded. So he decided, dude, let's get a friend. He wanted to get a friend or two and hop in his Bronco, run down to Home Depot. He actually bought the cinder blocks. He didn't just have them. He went out and purchased cinder blocks in order to go and try and jack this car up and save it, right? It was really a spur of the moment thing, I guess, where he just wanted to roll in and help a stranger. The way the story was written makes me a little bit confused of the timeline. So apparently this wasn't the only exotic car there. There were others. There was a Ferrari and I think an Audi R8 that were on location. And they rolled in, and there was the owner of this car was with the owners of the other cars, but they only had so many means. This is how I read the story. I might be butchering this. Sorry if I am, but they rescued the other cars on the trailer, and meanwhile, Austin took it upon himself to jack this one up and put these blocks underneath of it. And I think the owner was floating around somewhere. It was kind of a weird situation. But basically, he told Jalopnik that he really just appreciated the car and he was hoping that somebody else would do the same for him. And I think that that's a commendable effort that more people should probably start thinking like that. Like, we can help each other out, guys. It doesn't always have to be, political, or I'm not going to get every last single thing that I can off the plate. Like, helping other people feels good. Trust me. So from there, people started immediately asking why the car was there and what was going on. And you guys know how people are. You read through comments and people immediately think they're detectives. They're like, oh, insurance fraud. It's sitting in something flooding. Somebody must have pushed it in there and it's insurance fraud. Well, not exactly the case. It was said to be in there due to having bad weather seals. I guess that the car was in the middle of kind of some sort of transformation. It just got painted. And the owner said that the weather seals were not adequately holding out the water. So he wanted to park it there while this storm came through, just because, protests and coronavirus aren't enough. The area had to be hit by a tropical storm that's pretty rough as well. But he said he parked it there to try and get it out of the weather and didn't realize that it would flood. And luckily, he had, some people come and help him, a good Samaritan stranger, and everything ended up being okay for the car. So it's easy to think the worst sometimes of people, that it would be insurance fraud, but doesn't seem to be the case here. So, this kind of brings up an unpopular opinion of mine that people often, it's one of those opinions, I think, that people get upset about because it's cool to be upset about. Kind of like, this is even more controversial, kind of a side note, but the whole Nickelback thing, me and a buddy of mine were just cruising down the road, Nickelback came on shuffle, and we had a long conversation about how, this band's actually pretty decent. Like, why do people hate them? It's one of those things that becomes trendy to hate or becomes trendy to talk badly about, and then the next thing you know, you're just like sucked into the trend. I know I've been there before. I'm not exempt from that phenomenon. My unpopular opinion here is that it's okay for people to post about good deeds like this. I'm not sure if it happened in this particular situation, but I've definitely seen things exactly like this where people will take a video of them doing a good thing, or people will post pictures of them doing a good thing, and the immediate response isn't, wow, that's so good of you to drive to Home Depot, spend your own money and time, and they actually drove the Bronco through the water and said they trashed the transmission because water got in the transmission. People don't go, that's good of you. People will go, oh, well, you can't do a good thing without posting it to social media. They say, especially when it comes to homeless people, they'll be like, oh, it's so disrespectful that, you're using this homeless person for likes. Like, the homeless guy's not, like, incapable of saying no, right? He's like, I don't know if I would record myself in that situation of giving $5 to a homeless guy. It just seems kind of odd. But if that's what makes somebody feel better about themselves because they need that boost from social media, they need people to look at them and go, again, not the type of person I am, but need them to look at them and go, hey, I did this good thing, then what the hell is wrong with that? Like, I think we need to dial that back in. Just kind of a unpopular opinion there. At the end of the day, if someone doesn't want help, and they do want help, but they don't want to be filmed, they have the right to say no. Like, we're acting like people are completely helpless and against their will when some things like that happen. But I don't know. I just think it's cool to share this thing because not only can, if his friends pat him on the back, it'll make him feel good about doing what he did, as if helping this guy out was enough for Austin to feel good, obviously, or he wouldn't have done it. But if that extra pat on the back makes somebody feel good and makes them want to do it again, then what's wrong with it? If it's showing how people are and giving people a good vibe and going, I saw this guy, because I've been like this before. I saw this guy do this. I'm going to go through the drive-thru, pay for the person behind me. I think it's great. That's one of the things that I just kind of never really got. And the people watching it, they clicked on it and then they complain about someone showing it off. And it's like, you just got entertained by it. Like, what are you talking about? Anyways, moving on here. This is a new segment that I'm going to try out called the Classified Finds of the Week. I guess of every other week, since we only do this podcast every other week. But anyways, we are going to start to dig into some classifieds, because I know we all go through these classified ads and find these unique things, and some of them are really worth sharing, and it's going to have a theme. This week's theme, for example, is the time capsule cars, meaning the cars that were bought brand new and don't have any mileage on them, but they're like 20, 30 years old, and now they're up for sale. And then I guess the concept really is going through these cars and figuring out, are people making money on them? How much more money are they worth than like a regular example of the car? And, is it worth stashing these cars away? There's some really interesting cars that I've found here. And the first one, we'll just roll right into it. We have a 2003... I can't talk. My brain just went numb. 2003 Terminator Cobra with, count them, on one hand, 5 original miles. So, the original MSRP on this car, not that it's really relevant to this story, I guess it is, $34,935 was the original MSRP. So, just short of $35,000 bought you one of the coolest Mustangs to ever exist, in my opinion. I'm very biased because I really like this car, and I would love to own one day, but inflating buying power, which is also kind of a weird thing to look at, is $35,000 in 2003 would buy you almost $50,000, $49,296 worth of car in 2020. So the original MSRP is $34,935. Any idea on what the asking price of this car is today? 5 original miles, there's not really a market for it. So this guy kind of had to play it by ear and figure it out himself. What is the profit margin on such a car? I'll give you a hint that's not really a hint. An 04 in a similar color, I think it's the same color, with 8,800 miles, sold at Barrett Jackson for $38,500 not too long ago. So, what is the value of an 8,795 mile difference between the 04 and the 5 mile 03? Well, the asking price on this one, I'm not 100% sure if it's sold yet or not, but the guy is asking $76,950 for this car found in Salt Lake City, which, by the way, I'm sure the car is very clean and been kept inside as I'm showing you these pictures here. It's immaculate, but as a car buyer, when I hear Salt in the name of a city, it immediately makes me go, like, I don't have anything to do with it. Which I'm sure this is a gorgeous car. I'm sure there's a lot of clean cars in Salt Lake City, but Salt eats cars, especially when they get older like this. But yeah, so the profit margin, assuming that this guy sells it for anywhere near what he wants to sell it for, is about $42,000 of real money, or $27,000 when we consider how inflation comes into the equation. So basically, looking at a car like an investment, a 2003 Terminator, like, these cars they're not super rare, but they're not common, right? It's not a common car. It's somewhat rare, having one with 5 original miles on it. So making $27,000, we'll go with the inflation number because I feel like that's more realistic. But making $27,000 over 17 years is less than $2,000 a year appreciation. If you can actually sell it for that, do you think it's worth it? I'm not sure. But the pictures of the Terminator alone make this story more than worth it, because I really do envy that car and that style, and I wish that I could have one with 5 miles on it. But 8,800 miles on a very similar car for $38,500 versus 5 original miles for $76,000, almost $77,000 is a what? $30,000, $40,000 difference almost. So you're paying $40,000 to have a new car versus one with $8,800 or 8,800 miles on it. Then what do you do? What does this guy do with this car once the buyer buys it? If they buy it for anywhere near that cost, do they drive it? I mean, you just paid all that money, for a brand new car to not drive it. Do you keep collecting it and hope that it's worth more money in a couple years, or how does that even work out? That's a mind-blowing thing to think about. And then the other thing is, who bought this car? Like, did they buy it and just like something happened? And it's just a weird concept to think about. Or did they buy 2 of them? Because I don't think I'd be able to have a car like that just sitting out in the garage, and I'm not going to drive it ever. Like, it's weird. And this is another concept that kind of gets people divided and arguing with each other. Because people will see cars like this and go, that car was meant to be driven, and it's a beautiful car, and they get real involved in it. And then other people will be like, you paid your money for it. Go put it in the ocean. I don't care. Like, go sink it like those Silverados that we featured the other week to the bottom of the ocean and blow it up. Whatever. You paid your money for it. It's your loss. But other people will get, drive the car. You bought it to be driven. Don't let it sit in a garage. And I can kind of get both sides. What do you guys think? What do you think? Do you think that sitting a brand new performance car in a garage is a bad thing? Or do you think that collecting cars is all right? So, moving on to our next classified find of the week. This one is cheating a little bit, but it does have a little bit more information. Remember, that's $76,000, and the last one was the asking price. This one actually sold. So I'll give you the description of the vehicle and the rundown and kind of the market. And as I'm telling you this, maybe you guys can form another guess. This is where it's going to be fun with the premiere, because we're going to be able to see the live guesses in the comments, hopefully. We can kind of guess what this thing is going to be worth. So number 2 on the list is a fully restored, which is kind of cheating a little bit. It's not exactly a time capsule, but it's as close as you can get. Fully restored 1999 XJ Jeep Cherokee with just 20 miles on it. And really, guys, like, I don't know if I'm weird in this. I might be. But I feel like the pictures in these alone make it worth looking into them, because you're looking at a car from 1999, which, by the way, a car that's only 21 years, a car from 99 being restored is like weird. It makes me feel old that a 99 Jeep Cherokee is being restored. Anyway, just 20 miles. It's listed at 20 miles. I don't think it was an actual 20-mile Jeep, probably a body, and then maybe the build has 20 miles on it. It has a little bit of work done to it. It's not 100% a time capsule. It has a suspension lift and steering upgrades and bigger tires. And other than that, it appears to be pretty much stock. But this thing is so clean. It's just like, I almost want to go and look at it for nostalgia. Like, it's a museum piece, right? And I didn't realize either that the original MSRP on these Jeeps was actually relatively expensive for what you're getting, because it's a bare bones basic vehicle in most cases. The original MSRP was sitting around $20,000, which at the time equates to about $30,000 in today's money, which I guess isn't a real expensive car, but I don't know. I kind of expected them to be a little bit cheaper. So when you look at this brand new 99 XJ Jeep Cherokee, what are you expecting it to be? Because if you look around the market, you could find one of the cleanest Jeeps imaginable. Probably, like, saying $10,000 would be overkill. Like, I feel like 5 to 7. Maybe I'm wrong. People might correct me in the comments. I feel like 5 to 7, you could buy a perfectly nice, clean Jeep. I know that they're kind of hard to find clean because people off-road them and beat the crap out of them. But what are you guys expecting here? Because this was sold. This was sold on eBay for $35,900. So if you take the original MSRP, it's a $15,900 difference, or about a $5,000 inflated difference, meaning if you're just taking a regular car, 20 years of sitting around isn't enough for it to be worth anything. But I assume that they probably got a body real cheap, stripped it down, and completely did it over, and probably don't have 35.9 into it. They probably have substantially less than that. But do I think it's worth that? It very well could be. And if not, again, just real cool at looking at these types of old vehicles that kind of take us back in time a little bit. And this next one will really take you back in time. I almost forgot that these things existed. The next vehicle is a 2002 Chevy Monte Carlo SS Dale Earnhardt edition. Now, this is such a weird one. The car has 2,200 miles on it. It is original. And something that you probably didn't think you were going to learn today is that there was 3,333 of these ever made. The threes are probably Dale related. And it's something that, at the time, NASCAR drivers, I didn't realize this till I started recently getting back into watching NASCAR. I didn't realize that NASCAR drivers were like a huge deal. Like, they were A-list celebrities. These days, nobody really knows any NASCAR drivers unless you're a fan of the sport. They were A-list celebrities. They were on talk shows and walking the red carpet, and they did everything A-list celebrities did. So at the time, it would have probably been reasonable, especially with Dale Earnhardt being right before his death at like the height of his celebrity, that one of these things would be collectible one day. And then, it's not the most fun concept in the world, but after he passed away, thinking that this would be worth something someday would be also a reasonable thought. The original MSRP on the car around 2002 was $23,225, which was a decent amount of change for a car that's just a regular commuter. It was the supercharged 3.8 liter, which my first car was, by the way. Very fun car for what it is, But at the end of the day, it was weird because it seemed like Chevy was trying to push this model on people by making them think it was sporty, with Dale Earnhardt being involved in it when it was really just kind of like a commuter car. I don't know. I think that this would be really cool if they would have done it with like the Camaro. Imagine like maybe the Corvette, but probably the Camaro, like an Intimidator edition Camaro outfitted similarly to the way that this car was outfitted, except in a Camaro with maybe a supercharger on the Camaro. Who knows? But anyway, the Monte Carlo's original MSRP was $23,225. So what do you think it sold for? Do you think it appreciated? Do you think it depreciated? Well, get your comments in. What did it sell for? Okay. So the original MSRP, $23,225, ended up selling, 18 years later for $17,000. And if I have a sad sound effect, I'm going to put it right here. So it's like a $6,000 loss minus selling fees and all that stuff. I didn't even bother to find the inflated version because it would be a much bigger loss than that. It's just kind of strange how like some sort of collectible like this, like a 2002 Dale Earnhardt Monte Carlo, is similar in age to a 99 XJ Jeep Cherokee. It's arguably, well, not even arguably, it's definitely a much rarer car, and it's sold for more originally, but when it comes to buying one these days, I guess people just don't really want it. $17,000, don't get me wrong, is still a lot of money for that model as compared to what's on the market these days. But it's just, I don't know, kind of sad to see, honestly. And last is a 2,000-mile 1992 Ford Bronco. I want to add a 4x4 to this stable. Like, even though I have too many vehicles and I can't keep up with making content for all of them as it is, I want to add another one. What do you guys think as far as like an old SUV goes? What's a good like beach cruiser? Because that's what I've been wanting. It's kind of what I was going to do with that Tahoe that never really materialized, and I ended up getting the Corvette, but I kind of do want a beach cruiser. What would you guys do for a beach cruiser? Would you do a 2,000-mile Bronco? This was like the cheapest trim level available, very basic, 4.9-liter V8, manual transmission, and the original MSRP was just under $20,000. So in today's money, because this is definitely the oldest one, 1992 Bronco, the oldest vehicle on our list, the inflation is really adjusted to just short of $36,000 in 1992 money. And the vehicle, it's so clean. Like, looking through these pictures here, it's just like, it's crazy to see these kinds of things in their original condition all these years later. And just wow. Just some of these pictures are incredible. Because it's new, but it's old and crappy at the same time, Something I wouldn't mind adding to the stable, but I can't because it's sold. So get them guesses in. And the original MSRP is $36,000 in today's money. And it's sold for, drum roll please, $35,000. $34,500. So about what the original MSRP was all of these years later. And with these cars, I'm not really even sure, man. Like, reading through them, I'm not sure how they even got here. Like, oh, it's a straight 6, by the way, not a V8. My bad. It has receipts of the oil and filter changes through the years, but I don't understand how that happens with 2,000 miles on the clock. Like, I can kind of get it if you have like a Terminator, right? That's a car where it's like, okay, maybe this will be worth some money one day. Maybe even the Dale Earnhardt Monte Carlo. Maybe this will be worth some money one day. Put it away, collect it. If you're going to collect a car, those probably aren't bad bets. I mean, obviously, one of them did turn out not being such a great bet. But I don't get how a vehicle like this would be stashed away and only have 2,000 actual miles on it. Like, it just doesn't make very much sense. Did they think they were going to earn a lot of money on letting this thing sit? Maybe. Is it really cool? Definitely. Do I think it's worth it all these years later to stash it away? If it was stashed away on purpose, you got to think somebody probably died and this was just sitting in a garage, right? Anyway, not much money. This week's segment kind of shows us that there's not a ton of money to be made on vehicles and letting them sit away. The Terminator is yet to be determined. It hasn't been sold yet. Maybe there's good money to be made there. And when it comes to picking collectors' cars, it's just so hard, man. It's just so damn hard to do. But people are willing to pay for nostalgia because, like I was saying, these vehicles, even though it's transferred to today's money with inflation, they're about willing to pay what the original cost of the vehicle was just for nostalgia. It just goes to show you, man, like that functionality isn't like humans get spoiled because we're willing to pay money for a memory, for a thought, not even for something that's functional. It's pretty crazy to see that some of these vehicles are bringing big money with the secondhand market here. So, moving on to an actual, this is different than what I normally do. I don't know about you guys, but I've really been into Teslas recently. And I think that I want to buy one eventually. I'm not sure yet. Have my eye on them. Going to see how things pan out. Just like with everything else. Like I said, I sit back, I wait, and I watch. So, there was a Tesla driver who actually wrecked into an overturned truck when using the Autopilot feature on their vehicle. The driver was fine, but the wreck was pretty gnarly. So we're going to play that real quick and then break it down. We're going to talk a little bit about what was going on with the Autopilot and whose fault it was and what's going on, and everybody's freaking out. We're going to talk about it. So let's let that clip roll real quick. So, this driver was reportedly driving down the highway with Autopilot engaged when it ran into an overturned truck, and there are some theories that maybe he hit the gas and whatever. I don't think that's accurate. I believe that the Autopilot was engaged and it was a case of a human not paying attention. For those who are unaware, Tesla's Autopilot system isn't technically 100% autopilot. You still have to have your hands on the wheel and you have to be paying attention because things like this do happen. There have been accidents, there have been wrecks. As far as liability, that's probably going to be a long battle to be able to sort out actually getting full autonomous driving. As of right now, does not exist. They are very good. And I asked myself, I was like, if Tesla realizes that these systems aren't perfect, then why do they even put them in the first place? And I was thinking, people are dumb. Like, people are going to use this thing and abuse it and try and make the most of it when they shouldn't be yet, because Tesla makes clear, like, look, we are, it needs work. It's pretty good, but it needs work. It's not perfect. You have to pay attention. People are going to try and get by that. You just know. Like, every day I see people's level of, like, my base level of what I thought most people were capable of in normal society just drop. And the floor is, like, falling out of the whole existence these days. But hey, it is what it is, right? So, you have to have your hands on the wheel. And a YouTuber, Wes Bard, did a good job of laying out some of the reasons why he thought this might have happened. So shout out to him for really laying this out in a nice way. One of the theories that he came up with was the adaptive cruise control system failing to see stationary objects, which I guess is a proven point. You know, the way that these systems work is that as you're driving by yourself, all of the Teslas are in a network across the world. So you're driving and it reports what is good driving behavior back to Tesla, and Tesla then, the computer uses that information to learn how to drive better, right? So it's kind of creepy, kind of like a robots taking over the world vibe, because they're learning from humans what good driving is and what bad driving is. But sometimes it might detect certain things that aren't there, like there's been reports of the overpasses being detected as an object in the road. Because if you think about it, down the horizon a little bit, it sees this overpass and thinks that it's, you know, an object sitting in the road, which is something that they have to iron out. And again, why you have to be paying attention when you're driving the thing. And the other part is that encountering an overturned truck is probably something that not too many people have run into when out on the highway, you know? And the guy, Wes, was saying that he was thinking that the autopilot system probably thought maybe that this was an overpass and didn't feel the need to stop. The person wasn't paying attention. And that was that, man. People are people, though. And this is clearly, assuming that the autopilot was in use, this is clearly the guy driving's fault. It's just crazy to me that somebody would try and override that. Like, literally, the first couple weeks that it came out, we saw the guy who had, because you have to have your hands on the wheels, the guy had stuffed little oranges in the wheel so that the pressure sensors would be pressed, thinking that there was hands on the wheel. And, yeah, man, that intelligence baseline constantly getting lower. The guy, he did manage to walk away without major injury, but this just goes to show, and it's kind of like a toss-up for Tesla, because, you know, they probably realize that there are stupid people out there who are going to try and take advantage of the system and make it what they want it to be, and, like, think that they're doing something special by, you know, sleeping while the autopilot is driving them. So on one hand, it makes them look bad, even though it's not really their fault in all likelihood. But on the other hand, they want to release this cool technology. So what do? I don't know. Speaking of lowering the bar for intelligence, I finally found my 10mm clip of the week. Just one of those crazy clips that you find when browsing the internet. A guy managed to sink a boat in Cedar Lake in Indiana. The boat was said to be a $300,000 Pavati AL-26, which isn't the end of the world, right? Like, people sink boats, you hit stuff out in the water, things happen. But it's how he reacted to this that really had everybody's attention. So not only did he sink his boat, but he took a Jeep Wrangler out into the water to try and pull the boat up on shore. And I didn't stutter. I didn't mean that he tried to pull the boat to shore with a long, you know, tow strap from land. The dude drove his Jeep into the water to try to pull the boat out, right? And I mean, in situations like this, they evolve pretty quickly, and, you know, you kind of snap to it and try and make a quick decision to get yourself out of this bad spot. But that is not really the right answer at all. And then, as if that wasn't enough, the next in was a Ford Raptor. I'm not sure if it was his or not, but they also, just going off the video, because we don't have any official statement or anything here, but it looks like someone drove in a Ford Raptor after the Jeep and the boat to try and save both of them. Like, it just makes you wonder, like, scrolling through this guy's Instagram, because somebody went through and did the detective work and found the boat and found the Jeep, and there was no Raptor, I don't think. But scrolling through this guy's Instagram, he has, like, all kinds of cars and boats and, like, a helicopter. He probably doesn't care about this. I mean, obviously pretty embarrassing, but it's just crazy to me that somebody would try and do that, and hopefully an update comes to this story and things aren't what they look like. But that, you want to talk about lowering the bar on decision making, that's really a good way to do it. I mean, in a moment of panic, I guess you got to do what you got to do, but chasing after a boat in the water with a Jeep, I don't care how lifted it is, unless you have a mud truck, you're not driving a Jeep into the water. That's about what I got this week, guys. Whew. 53 minutes of runtime. I'm sweating a little bit. I'm wearing a hoodie like a jackass, and that's all we got to say. Thank you guys for tuning in. And I could lean back and take a break here for a second. Next podcast will be coming at you in 2 weeks. Today is the 23rd, so that puts us, middle of July, second week of July. July 7th. We will be coming back at you after the 4th of July. Probably have to record that one a little bit early so I can get my festivities in for the holiday. And thank you again for joining me, guys. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you hitting the like button and subscribing, hitting the bell notification icon. Let me know what you think. Creative criticism is very welcome. Good comments also welcome. Thank you very much, guys. I will be talking to you next week. And that's where we can cut it. Later, guys.